Welcome back to another episode of Rail Industry Connected. I'm Dan Clark, and thank you for joining us. Welfare on the front line has long been an undiscussed topic in rail. As the infrastructure changes and responsibilities become more fragmented, there's been many organisations highlighting a reduction in the provision of facilities for staff. Alongside this, surveys by RSSB have found as much as 40% of rail workers are suffering from a mental health condition, and only half of those 40% have sought help. Some of those cited social exclusion and or burnout as a contributory factor. While working in such a safety critical environment, the need for welfare support is significant. Today, we speak to Welfare Hire, part of Kelling Group, who is a hirer of mobile eco-welfare products to growing long-term infrastructure and associated end markets throughout England, Scotland and Wales, focused on quality, service, environment, well-being and value. By delivering products that greatly enhance how welfare is handled on the front line, Welfare Hire is focused on providing a service that not only boosts welfare on the front line, but provides sustainability with these units in a cost-effective manner. Today, we're here to speak to Sarah Butcher of Welfare Hire, who will tell us a bit more. So, Sarah, welcome and thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
No, not a problem at all. So, we've highlighted the need for welfare facilities on the front line, but how do units such as yours contribute towards a positive impact?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one and something that's really at the heart of what we do and we look at. So employee wellbeing is paramount on rail construction sites, with mental health and burnout an important consideration. And improving wellbeing isn't just important for a duty of care perspective. It can also help employers to recruit diverse new talent, retain existing staff and boost productivity. RSSB report that sickness absence was 5 times higher in rail workers than the general population pre-COVID, and 6 times higher than the general population during the pandemic, figures that undoubtedly impact bottom lines. And then to add to this, the fact that rail still has a diversity problem. A 2021 Network Rail report found that 3.9% of operators and maintenance staff are women. And it's clear that more needs to be done to make on-site environments safe, inclusive and positive. So how do Welfare Hire nationwide do that? We provide modern welfare facilities to improve wellbeing. And while on-site facilities, particularly welfare units, might seem a little like more of a practical necessity, they can have a dramatic impact on wellbeing. For our team members, working outdoors, dry, warm and comfortable space can help make a big difference. And then if we take traditional older welfare facilities that are often poorly maintained or lacking the space and comfort to allow workers to take a proper break on site, these contribute to the lack of support that many may feel. These are workplace factors that, if improved, could transform culture and conditions on site. And as such, we feel that it pays to invest in quality welfare units with access to additional space, modern kitchen facilities, hygienic non-chemical water flush toilets, and enough power outlets so that employees are able to relax, recharge during their downtime. Finding the right facilities could encourage them to take more breaks regularly.
What have your team seen on the front line over the last few years working with clients, and what have you? Obviously, you say there that actually the type of units that you're providing really do facilitate that more and actually encourage more people to take time for themselves on, while working in such an environment such as that. But what have your team seen over the last few years?
Yeah, so we talk to a lot of people in the rail industry. We're right down on the ground, so we do talk to a lot of people around kind of the challenges that they face on site, and that's where a lot of our ideas and our innovation comes into play. So we see a lot of things. We see a lot of welfare units where we've got generators running all the time. So the old style welfare units that I've spoke about, where you have to have a generator on for everything. And that generator noise in the background banging away while they're trying to take a break, it's like a gnawing pain. So it can really impact them and they don't feel like they're rested. So by providing them, a better facility, for example, a hybrid solution with a solar and a battery backup, then we're able to give them those breaks and that downtime, peacefully. And then there's other things like, the amount of females that we now have on site, that is growing all the time, and we want to continue to invest in that. And I know that the rail industry certainly wants to invest in those things. So by providing things like twin toilets. So very recently we developed a product specifically designed for rail initially, but it's actually been taken on across a lot of infrastructure areas, but specifically designed for rail. And that is our Eco WC2 unit, which is a 2-bay toilet. It's the first mobile freshwater toilet unit, and it's a fully solar unit with rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling. But what it enables the sites to have is extra toilet capacity. So if they've got, a lot of people, if they've got a peak in their work, they can take away and they can bring in more welfare, but they can add in toilets. And it certainly provides facilities for females on site. So it enables them to have, their own toilets and their own, sanitary equipment within those toilets. So we also provide that as well. So we're able to provide everything to cover that diverse workforce and encourage more females into the rail industry, really, which is what we're trying to do.
Have you seen an impact in the introduction of these facilities actually having a positive impact on safety as a whole within your clients as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's many things, in terms of safety. I think for me, more importantly, them having a proper break, them having that downtime
Mm,
allows them to be rested so that when they're going out to complete the work on site, they're more alert, they're more aware. So in enabling them to have that proper downtime, that proper break, it does enable them to be more safety critical on site and more aware of their surroundings. If they're not able to, have a proper break, for example, a really good example actually is where we have got the facility to run the kettle and the microwave at the same time. So no other welfare provider is able to do that. So it's either one or the other. That there's like a priority management system, and you can either make a cup of tea or a coffee, or you can heat up your lunch. So if you've got someone who's working a night shift in rail and they think, actually, I need to heat up my lunch, but someone else, you've got a 30-minute break or whatever it may be, wants to make a cup of tea, or the rest of the team do, one of them has to wait in a traditional welfare unit. So we have the facility to use both at the same time. So, there's no kind of arguments, there's no waiting around for heating up food or boiling the kettle. It's small compromises that can really have a detrimental effect like that. So, time, you know, package that all up together with everything else that we've got on offer. Small things like having USB ports in the tables so that the guys, can charge their phones and
mm.
look at their laptops and things like that while they're on their break. Having a proper break, using better toilet facilities. So rather than a chemical toilet, which isn't the most pleasant experience, I'm sure we've all been to
No.
festivals and kind of used chemical toilets, but having the freshwater toilets on site gives them the ability to, have that better toilet break by virtue of the fact that it's a fresh flush system. So, it's like your toilet system at home, but we're timing that with harvesting rainwater as well from the roof, grey water recycling. So we're reducing the amount of need to service the toilets as well. So another safety aspect is, having somebody on site to service those toilets. So we have to access the units. We have to arrange for servicing. So with a chemical toilet, traditionally, you'd have to have that service sometimes, on a rail job, could be 2, 3, 4 times a week, depending on how many people are
Mm.
using it. Because it's only got a very small tank capacity. So with our toilets, they're 4 times bigger. And they're able to that enables us to reduce that service interval. So the tanker turning up on site to pump out the toilet, obviously, all that intervention in and around site, refueling, anything like that, comes with its own set of kind of health and safety kind of precautions as well. So it's all those elements. But going back to what you were saying about employer kind of having those responsibilities, to ensure that
Mm.
everyone's getting a proper break. It's really the small things that really do matter. Like I say, the kettle microwave facility, the charging facilities, the better toilet facilities, the heating in the unit, not having the generator running when they're taking their break. A traditional unit, you'd have to have the generator on to boil the kettle, to use the microwave. And that obviously creates emissions, which is a separate problem on its own. But actually, it also creates a situation where they're not really having a full break. They can't sit quietly and just relax for that 30 minutes, 15-minute break, whatever it is.
It's those little things as well that you take for granted if you're in an office environment, for example, the fact that you can't use the kettle and the microwave at the same time. And obviously, going to potentially going to a toilet facilities that's akin to what you'd expect at a festival, it obviously can impact mental health if it's not right, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you look at time used on breaks as well. If you're waiting for two people to use the kettle before you can heat something up, that reduces your break time as well. So you can see the difference it can make. Small little things sometimes really do impact mental health, don't they? So where else can facilities like this enable mental health support provision, not only from supporting them on their break point of view, but actually from an employee-employer relation point of view as well?
Yeah, so I think it's it's the time to change now. So promoting health and well-being is a massive part of what needs to happen moving forward, and I think a lot of people do that. And improving well-being is not simply a technical challenge. So these issues are deeply embedded in the culture of many sites. So rather than looking at quick fixes, we need to see this as an ongoing task for adaptation and education for the wider rail industry. Leaders need to seek to truly understand the conditions that create such poor well-being. The long, precarious contracts, chronic loneliness, fatigue. The all that goes along with it, the fear of that. So this will, it helps people properly acknowledge the scale of the problem and formulate better strategies to address it. We've done events like Time to Talk Day that are about raising awareness for mental health struggles, and the message is really simple. We need to be able to talk openly about our well-being, and that includes very much, the environment and the workplace. So with just 5% of employees only 5% of employees tell their employers, when they experience mental health issues. And in order to create the change, leaders should take a varied approach. You can't simply force people to talk if they're not ready. So there should be, a wealth of options for workers to communicate with the leadership about the problems that they face. There's no getting around it. On-site wellbeing is directly connected to the quality and quantity of facilities that workers do have access to. Isolation and lack of communication are inevitably worsened by small, cramped spaces, which don't allow employees to be comfortable even when they're supposed to be having a break. So a simple example to improve this could be by updating your mobile welfare units with more space, comfortable seating, employees being able to properly relax on their downtime. It will also foster a sense of community and openness, which may lead to better communication.
I can completely agree with that. And I think one of the challenges that employers do face, especially in an environment such as that, is because these are all essentially temporary sites as such, it doesn't really create the environment for frontline colleagues to be able to talk to people if they feel like they do need support in work. And with social exclusion being such a massive issue as well on the railways, especially if someone comes into a well-ingrained team, for example, that's brand new and is finding it hard to kind of fit in. You don't get that environment where that's the case. Where can facilities such as this really support more so alongside the comfortable seating? You've got such a temporary small space. How can you get creative with that?
Yeah, so I think there needs to be, like you say, you need to get creative with it. So I mean, we look at
Mm,
it, on a case by case basis. So I think you need to, ensure that you've got the right welfare facilities on site, and there's enough space for them. So we have a range of welfare units. We try and advise all our customers on what they should be providing sites, and our teams will have those conversations with them initially to understand, how long are they going to be on site. So is it essential that the welfare units, do they need to be a little bit bigger if they're going to be on there longer? Are you going to have, by virtue of the fact you're going to have peaks and downtime within the working day, or if you're on shift work, things like that,
mm,
and understand kind of how many people will be using them, so that we can make sure that we're accommodating them as best we can. So we do a lot of work around with our bigger construction sites around a modular to mobile. So there's a lot of merit in kind of switching to mobile welfare over having a modular, depending on the size, having a modular building. So we're really good at kind of understanding the customer needs and talking to them about what they think they'll need. So check in, do they need twin toilets on site? A lot of our welfare units have twin toilets anyway, but just ensuring that they've got the right amount of toilets for the right sort of people that they've got working there. It's a big part of what we do and understanding kind of our customer better. Certainly in rail, we know that there's a requirement for a minimum amount of toilets, which is why we developed the Eco WC2 unit. And it's a really big asset to the rail industry, and it's used all the time up and down the country. So it's just really understanding what the requirements are and ensuring that they've got enough within what they're doing to accommodate the people that are working on site and those peaks in their kind of workforce.
And from a sustainability point of view, I know you touched on that earlier on, but that is becoming increasingly important now as well. And as you say, you don't really want a generator running on in the background while you're working, and not only from a noise point of view, and especially if you're working on the night as well, disturbing the neighbours, you don't want that kind of stuff. So obviously you've got solar panels and things like that you're kind of working with the units there as well. But when you look towards a work winning perspective, these types of facilities really will help businesses, won't they? From demonstrating how they're being sustainably conscious on the front line. But how can you also help colleagues demonstrate that they care for them as well? They're caring for their colleagues as well through using your facilities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, simple factors like building team morale and ensuring on-site comfort can have a dramatic impact on the kind of
Yes.
workplace culture that emerges. And, that can be heavily influenced by things as simple as welfare that you hire. Choosing the right mobile welfare units can greatly improve attitudes you find on site generally. Put on an emphasis of well-being and changing how employees feel about their work. So the welfare hire eco units, feature 2 separate water flush toilets, which we've already covered, hot water hand basins, separate equipped offices, drying room and changing rooms, as well as, extra large canteens. So, there's a consideration for diverse teams, to separate changing and toilet facilities. This enables teams to spend time together in a comfortable space, and the large dynamic design and layout helps provide, hygiene and break facilities. Just creating that environment just really helps and helps with team morale, but also it kind of gets into, employers really looking after their staff and understanding their needs on site.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important. It may seem like, these are relatively small factors, but combined, improvements to employee experience can be massive. And this, in turn creates this ripple effect leading to, improvements in productivity, employee retention, overall staff morale. Organizations with greater gender equality are 15% more likely to earn more than their competitors and 6 times more likely to innovate. So, we've discovered that with projects that emphasize employee experience and well-being, this results in 21% higher profitability. And in fact, every pound spent on well-being produces an incredible 500% return.
That's significant, isn't it? That really is. If you can demonstrate that as well, it's incredibly important. So, from a work winning point of view as well, and obviously, look, it's the right thing to do on the front line, but we have an ever changing frontline colleague persona, as it were. So, we're not. Well, at the moment, there is a lot of older people on there, older male people as well, with it predominantly being a male dominated industry. How do you accommodate your facilities to actually ensure that they cover all the needs of the diverse range of people that are coming into the railways, the young new blood that's obviously coming into the
Yeah.
railways as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if COVID-19 taught us anything, it's that things like hygiene matter.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
most construction leaders still assume, that on-site facilities are simply a matter for health and safety, not an opportunity to create that competitive advantage, which is what you want when you're introducing new, young people into the industry.
Mm,
You want to create that competitive advantage where, you people want to come and work within the rail industry, and the truth behind hygiene facilities, featured in innovative mobile welfare units and welfare vans create many benefits way beyond simply keeping staff safe. So on-site facilities require regular servicing to and from the site. This might not seem like much, But these are the sort of easy to solve carbon emitting and waste water practices that accumulate. So again, going back to your ESG score, just touching on that and making up that dent in your ESG score, that will form part of that. And the average chemical toilet used on construction sites requires at least a once weekly service, as we've already covered. It doesn't recycle any water, but this isn't construction leaders' only option. So, things like the Excel smart water system built into welfare, they typically take several weeks to fill, reducing service trips and carbon emissions, harvesting rainwater to be more sustainable. So imagine it's your first day on a construction site. So you're a young person, you're just new to the industry, and you go to wash your hands and you discover there's no hot water. It's a really small factor, but over the course of a full working day or a complete project, this will start to really impact on the general mood and morale of site. So, taking that into consideration, attracting young talent, better facilities that run smoothly without compromise and provide plenty of room can have a dramatic impact on employee experience. It signals to the staff, that they are valued. Help with general well-being as well. That's a really big area. Increased retention and loyalty. People are going to want to come to work if they've got nice facilities. Improved hygiene reduces the spread of disease, and it's going to help keep the staff safe. So coming back to your point on earlier on health and safety, there's that to consider as well. And 68% of workers say that poor hygiene at work has made them sick and unable to do their job. So improved hygiene needs to take place. It's going to lead to fewer sick days, higher morale, and just a more productive workforce in general. But those, going back to what you were saying, Dan, those facilities, those modern facilities, just the ability to charge your phone without a generator running. The younger generation want to, on their break, check the news, check the sports scores, all those things. They're able to do that without being able to plug their phone in somewhere and walk away from it. They're able to do that while they're sat enjoying their brew at their table. It's small things like that. Being able to go to the toilet in that environment is just so much nicer. I can't imagine for a moment if I had to use a chemical toilet, as part of my everyday life on a construction site. It's bad enough when they're out there in the cold and the wind, and that's when welfare is needed the most, right? So it's important that we get it right.
It's one of the most critical areas, I think, if anything else, because of the type of environments they're working as you say. So, yeah, it's somewhere that probably needs a lot more care than anywhere else. We've seen such a huge change over the last 30 years in the railways. You touched on two great points there. The fact that you've got the ability to charge your phone nowadays, you wouldn't need that 30 years ago because we didn't even have mobile phones. Or if we did, we had a Nokia 3210 that was probably only on 99% battery anyway because it was absolutely fine. But nowadays, it's changed significantly. How do you see the future of welfare on the railways going over the next 20, 30 years beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I mean, there's lots of different people out there trying to do different things. There's a hell of a lot of smoke and mirrors. So I think from our point of view, we see what we do as kind of the best fit for now. Technology is changing all the time. With us as a business, technology never stands still, and as a market leader, we're constantly investing in that new technology and equipment. We're heavily invested in the data capture. So we've been doing that for the last 5 years, and we've received accreditation from Sustainable Advantage,
Nice.
that's rubber stamped that for us. So that's really helped us, and all that data, that ESG data, is available at our fingertips, because everybody's looking at decarbonisation. Everybody wants their reporting at their fingertips. We're able to provide that. So it's, the future of welfare is definitely fast paced. It's changing all the time. I can only speak from kind of our point of view and what we're doing as a business. Constantly listening to customers. There's definitely some new innovation coming down the line. We've just launched our brand new Eco 14, which has, got our new technology. And we can monitor everything remotely. So that's a big part of what we do now. And that will definitely, drive things forward in the future. And that's a big thing for us. We've just launched the Eco WC2 as well. So I've talked on that quite a little bit because, that will dramatically change the marketplace. it's going to, attract new talent. It's going to increase, females on site. It's perfect for that diverse workforce. It reduces your carbon footprint. So there's a big part of that we're doing. I mean, there are exciting things ahead for us, and we continue to listen to our customers and provide that eco-friendly, market leading product without compromise, really.
And you're able to help your customers report back to their clients to demonstrate change, difference, and performance as well, I'm guessing.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've worked with a lot of kind of higher level infrastructure arms that kind of want to mandate on welfare across the board. So very recently, not within the rail industry, but within highways, I headed up a team that looked at the minimum standard for welfare. And I think that is really important. I mean, from my point of view, what I'd like to see is a minimum standard for welfare within rail. So, I want to see that, people are using freshwater toilets. We're harvesting rainwater. We're recycling grey water to flush the toilets to reduce that service interval. It's really, really important. We want to see solar being used effectively, not just to, power a light bulb. We want to see it, to be used on the high voltage items to reduce any sort of backup. So we want to see the kettle and microwave being used at the same time, but through that battery power. So, we're able to do that. And what happens next, I'm not sure. I think there will be, changes. As I say, for us, it's a very fast-paced environment. I think that there are people that will be left behind. That's naturally going to happen. We've always tried to stay ahead, and we've always tried to lead the way. And it's important that we continue to do that as a business.
It's a really interesting point you made there about the standardization of welfare, because especially in the rail industry, everything's standardized, isn't it? Really, to an extent. So, but this surprisingly isn't. And when you see the figures, obviously, that we've reported on from RSSB there and everything else, there is an issue that is directly related to welfare in the industry. How do you go about standardizing something like that?
It's really tricky because everything's regulated, like the car industry is regulated. There aren't any regulations within welfare. And actually, as a business, we would encourage that to take place. We would like people to, mandate on certain things. As I've said, it's important that businesses accept that, just any old tick in a box exercise isn't good enough. So, when we're looking at employee wellbeing, retention, all those things, there needs to be a minimum standard for that reason alone. And it is a really tricky job to do. So it has to be a collaboration. So the rail industry has to want that. They have to want to create that environment for their workers. And I think that they do. I think, it's something that, needs more work. And it's something that, I certainly wouldn't mind taking the reins on and reaching out and speaking to people and understanding how, things could be mandated within that industry and making it a better working environment for all, really.
Yeah. And if people want to find out more about welfare hire, where did they go?
Yeah, so you can contact us. We've on our website. There's an inquiry form through the website. You can always call into our office. So we have depots up and down the country, but our head office has a central hire desk, and everybody on the desk is always happy to help. Website is available www.welfarehire.com, and also we have our sister company, which is accesshire.com as well.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
That was Sarah Butcher of Welfare Hire. Sarah, thank you for coming on and sharing your insights into how facilities such as yours can support from a mental health point of view and from a sustainability point of view as well. Sarah raised a lot of pertinent points there, especially about the standardization of welfare on the front lines, and actually supporting with just the basic needs sometimes make such a difference in actually including others into certain environments, not going out and sitting in their vans for half an hour during their break, for example, or however long, but actually creating environments to create welcoming spaces and provide the level of facilities that they need to be able to do their work and have a decent break as well are hugely important. So thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Rail Industry Connected. You can view past and future episodes of Rail Industry Connected on YouTube or listen to them on your way into work on Spotify. And of course, you can connect with other rail businesses and the industry on railindustryconnect.co.uk. Thank you and see you next time.